What's going on in the world right now? It's a crazy world right now. There are so many people doing so many ugly things that are not consistent with my values, and I'm powerless over them. I go and vote, hopefully, like everyone else. I've always voted. There are so many more people trying to take my data. I feel like I'm increasingly subject to people trying to scam me for things. Even in my in-person relationships, I keep coming across people who are trying to lie to me or cheat me on something. And it's very frustrating. It's hard to be trustful. Even people who I think I have valuable relationships with are bad about, they got to move and things, and I don't blame them for that, but even those feel like a betrayal, and in the act, there are often further betrayals in that, and that's been very challenging for me to deal with. How do I feel like I fit into the world? Well, this is kind of the what do I do about it part. And to an extent, I just do my best to protect myself. I don't want to have overly big boundaries against people in relationships, though I find that that's kind of naturally happening. I want to be mindful and conscientious of who I am and who I'm putting out there in the world. So these videos are an example of that. I try to be intentional and not put things on these that are too personal. I remember when I was young and had the live journal and the MySpace, and I would always overshare things and sometimes come to regret them, frequently come to regret them, or say something I didn't mean, or even something I did mean, but I really should not have expressed in that way. And I think me and hopefully my generation have grown to be more mindful of that sort of thing and more careful about what we put out there about ourselves. Further, with all the information gathering, I want to be more mindful about not just my digital presence, but my physical presence and the ways that can be recorded and monitored. I was watching a few videos on facial recognition software, and I'm very tempted to take countermeasures to having my face picked up everywhere I go. They've got glasses now that can kind of stun the cameras that may have an infrared block and reflectors around the frame that'll bounce back and make the video not very usable. So I'm interested in those things, and I think I'll probably start putting my phone in a Faraday bag too. That seems pretty sensible. A little tedious to have an extra step to put your phone up, but just one less way to be tracked and monitored, particularly in this information age. I am getting more and more acutely concerned about all the ICE stuff, the budget they've passed that's increasing the ICE budget and presumably their presence. It's hard for me to tell if this is all just a way to line people's pockets. But I think what we're seeing is, even before the budget, an increased presence in ICE officers themselves, which are very disturbingly working with their faces covered and their names absent and that sort of thing. There's no way to tell that they're law enforcement. And the forces that be seem very open to using this law enforcement for their own personal aims. I strongly suspect we'll start seeing rival politicians jailed soon, and that's incredibly disturbing to me. And where does that line stop? I saw in Nazi Germany, the Jews excluded, there were something like 800,000 German citizens who were jailed at some point or another, just for being political rivals. I was watching one about a young woman who she was releasing pamphlets, spreading pamphlets around a university with information and just offering a contradictory point of view, and she was beheaded. Her and her two accomplices were beheaded for just spreading pamphlets around. So I don't want to be beheaded. I don't want to be hassled any more than I have to, honestly. So with that in mind, I think it's prudent, particularly now, to be increasingly mindful about our presence and how we present ourselves and how we expose ourselves in public. I would like some way to be a force for improving things. Like I said, I vote. I find that very important to do, if not actually in practice meaningful. I'm not convinced it's actually meaningful at all. So I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to do my best to make an informed vote. That's another place where I remember voting for, I would not call myself a Democrat. I'm certainly not a Republican, but I would not call myself a Democrat by any means either, especially with how that party has carried itself. I don't relate to their values. I don't think they're any better than the Republican Party at this point. But I remember I tried to vote for someone who presented in such a way that they seemed like they were more in line with my values, and then come to find out they were lying through their teeth the whole time, and they were actually conservatives in major disguise and just pulled a full flipperoo. We also recently had a elected official, was it Pat Cotham, I think, who ran as a Democrat, and then once she was elected, flipped parties and then became a Republican, which it's just another piece of betrayal out there. I'm just very frustrated with all of these, how this is all working this way. So what does that mean for me? It means I feel powerless in the big scheme of things. I have some power over my small world I live in, and I think it's prudent to try and preserve what little power I have, and maybe that is by trying to be more mindful about my expression and my presentation and what I actually engage with. But it's an ongoing challenge to try and connect that with my values and not undermine my values, but also not put myself at risk or an increased exposure where I may find myself in a position that I can't take care of my family the way that's important to me. That comes above all the rest of it. You know, my daughter and my wife and my little dogs and my little life are my highest priority. So it's a tricky situation I find myself in. If any of y'all have any guidance or how y'all are managing some similar feelings, please feel free to let me know. I'm not intending for this vlog to become a political vlog by any means. I just wanted to try and express some of those things. This whole vlog is an attempt for me to get better at expressing my thoughts and concerns, and this is something that's big in my life right now. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't. I'd like for the world to be a more boring place, but I'm not sure that's in the cards for us. So anyways, that's what I have for you right now. Hope you're having a good day.